Hey Rick, you ready to do this?
Yes, good morning. You've got some red on today, my brother.
I
That looks
do, I
very, is
do.
it a hoodie? Sleeveless
Yeah,
hoodie?
yeah, sleeveless hoodie, man. It's my little workout gear. Had a cycling class this morning, so yeah. You ready to get
Nice.
it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. The title of this podcast is Does Your Mind or Egos Need to Be Right Hurt You and Those Around You? This is inspired by my own experience. I remember a time, it's as many years ago, it was probably within like the first 5 years of ToBeRe. And I had this way that I thought that workouts should go, how people should eat, and things like that. Now, behind that was this mission that I had, which was, helping people reach their full potential, and everyone inspiring each other. And that was full potential not only with fitness and healthy physical being, but also their mindset, like to help people reach the full potential of that. But what was lurking in the background, and I didn't know it, was this need to be right about how they go about it. Like that was something that was there. So I remember many years ago, we had all of these different classes that you could take in ToBeRe. There was indoor spinning classes. We had a running group that would meet every, week to go run. We lifted weights. We did a lot of core exercises. There was TRX. There were all these things that we did. And we went swimming, biking. I thought there was something for everybody, that was there. Well, these three people who joined together, and they've been with ToBeRe for maybe a year and a half, they came to me one day and said, "Hey, Keith, we'd like to switch up the schedule and keep doing at least 4 days a week with ToBeRe, but the other 2 days, we like to do something different, something that you don't offer, or do it at a different time." And I remember this urge, man, come up, this ping come up. And it was one of those things that I've felt before with my need to be right, except I don't let myself just sit with it and look at the root of it. Not look at the root of it from a psychology standpoint of let's trace back your childhood and where this came and all this. No, more from a spiritual standpoint. And when I say spiritual, I'm talking about working on me in a way that frees me from the limitations of my ego and my mind and things like that. That's what I mean, like working on me to be free. And so this particular case, I knew this was a moment to look at myself. And so I asked him, I said, "Hey, can you continue with the schedule 1 week and let me think about it?" Which is the wisest thing I could do and something that I would never have done before. I'd have been like, "No, this is not what you should stick to the plan. I designed this plan. I know your goals better than you do, and I know how to get there better than you do, and all this other stuff." And I wrestled with it. And this is before I had a practice. I was still very much achievement oriented, personal development minded, but personal development minded. Let me pick up new skills. Let me find a different way to do my craft better. Nothing about really working on my inside so that I could always be open and lead with an open heart, respect people's choices, accept their choices, even if my mind said I wish they would have chose something different, to let them choose freely. And so I thought about it. And then I came back to, Keith, what do you ultimately want? You want people to be healthy in whatever form, whatever path they take to get there. It doesn't necessarily have to be through you. You want to give people the freedom to get there anywhere they can, anywhere, any way they choose to get there on their own timetable. Man, that was probably one of the first times that I took a stand to become free of my need to be right. And it was an important one because in this particular arena of physical well-being, of mental well-being, uh, I actually did something that was going to have a ripple effect on whenever I was asked things like changing schedules or doing something different in terms of like behavioral therapy, that I was going to be open to an individual getting there on any path they choose to take. So, just kind of, can you speak to, does your mind's egos or minor egos need to be right, hurt you and other people? And in this case, it would have, because I was trying, my need to be right was going to try to control them. It was going to try to keep this community together that we were developing in ToBeRe by any way. Not having people willfully be there, but to kind of control them like I know best. And man, that's not cool. I see people in organizations do it when they have a colleague who wants to go and explore an opportunity for somewhere else. I think it can be informative and like, hey, can you share with us on your, as you exit this part of your career and move on to the next, can you share with us why you're leaving so that we might improve things here? Like there may be some blind spots that we were unaware of or slow to act. Like I think that's informative. But the part about you don't want them to go because you're going to lose this kind of talent. No, what do you care about most? You care about this colleague being happy and experiencing professional fulfillment wherever that might take place. And so that experience early on with these three individuals was very informative about how I was going to go on and treat other people. And so that I no longer hurt them or hurt myself.
Yeah. Well, that's a great lesson. The thing that I loved about your analysis of, for the first time, you said going inside and looking at what was troubling you. The analysis started with the point of what do I really want for the other person? What do I really want in terms of an outcome? And I think that's critical when we're talking about ego involvement and the need to be right. Context, right? Context. So, for example, if I'm in trial, obviously I'm going to advocate a position that I think is right, and I'm going to do my darndest to avoid any kind of tarnishing of my theory of the case. Okay, that's the context of what I do for a living. But if I take that same attitude home at night and I'm dealing with a loved one and I have made some dinner that no one likes except me, but I'm going to shove it down their throats. I'm using the same kinds of skill, making them wrong as I was in court making the other side wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But you see the difference. The context is what's important. So, in your example of how you wanted to look at other people and having a successful outcome for them in their health, I think that's really the key. When you're making someone else wrong and making yourself right, there is an enormous cost, both to you and to the other person. It could cause all kinds of reactions that are unintended that you don't see. I mean, you think this is the best, and it's not. So anyway, the point is that context is really the first, I think, kind of scope, kind of landscape that you look at. What is the context in which I need to be right? I'm not saying always be right is a bad thing, but I do think that when we're dealing with personal relationships, compassion, consideration for the other person, and trying to develop a win-win out of a bad situation makes a lot more sense. I also think that partly when we disagree with people, it's because we want to be superior. I notice this about myself. I try to I find myself, I don't like it, but I find myself, having maybe I know one more fact than the other person does. And I'm using that as a hammer because I know that they're not going to be able to come back at it. And I catch myself doing it. And I think, yeah. What are you going to learn? How old are you? I mean, you're going to be you do that in your deathbed, right? It's going to be making the nurse wrong about something you read in some goofy magazine about what she's administering to you. And, 2 minutes before you're dead. My point is, the ego is relentless. It always wants to be superior. Always wants to protect itself. And by this exercise of being superior, sort of in the ego's field, that means that you're invulnerable, that you won't be hurt. And we always go back to this idea that the ego is there to protect you from hurt, but there's nothing to protect against because you're the ultimate decider of what hurts and what doesn't. So anyway, what I was trying to get across is that the context is really important when we're talking about wanting to be right. And I don't think it serves ourselves when we're trying to make other people wrong in our personal lives. because we have maybe a way of looking at life that we think is superior. That's just the wrong-headed way to
Right.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was now. I really like this quote, though. It was something along the lines of, every person in life is superior to me in some way. Every person in life is superior to me in some way. And I want to find out what that way is so I can be a better person,
I love
rather
that.
than I'm going to show you I'm superior to you, and here's my demonstration. And then you start off on your tirade about whatever it is that you think you're superior about. So the idea is to put aside all of that. You don't have to be measuring your own wealth in terms of how many people you beat up mentally or win in an
Right.
argument or do things that are not kind.
Right.
Kindness is really the religion, isn't it? Kindness should be the coin of the realm.
Absolutely, Rick. I love every single thing you said. Like everything. I mean, you just dropping wisdom, man.
That's
Oh,
$4. Send me the $4.
checks in the mail.
Attaboy.
Yeah. It's just going on with this theme about, being superior. When you operate from that space, man, how do you not hurt other people?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you not diminish them in doing that? Right. Like
So true.
that's what happens. And your ego becomes larger and it becomes an even more of a blockage for your authentic self, to come through. And and to go back to what you pointed out earlier was, asking the question, what do you really want? And if we take a couple examples, when a child is born, a parent, I'm assuming parents say, I want this child to be happy. And so the child grows up, the child falls in love with someone, but the parent doesn't approve because it's not the right, skin color. It's not, they don't have the right job. The potential, a mate for your child. They do things differently, wrong sexual orientation in your mind, all these things. But I thought you said you want the child to be happy. But your need to be right becomes something that hurts them, it hurts you, and it becomes this barrier to the relationship. And so when you lose that part of it, then what you really want from the beginning, and you start to put all these limiting beliefs and conditions, and you adopt this thought and that thought. You allow yourself to be pulled and swayed away by rhetoric that's out there in the public sphere. You start to confuse people's behavior and what they say with their humanity. Next thing you know, like, you've forgotten what it was you wanted in the first place.
Mhm.
Like, people say, I want to have a peaceful life. Really? All I see you doing is complaining all the time. like seriously? Like, you forget what you said you wanted. Like, a person who wants a peaceful life, they don't spend their time complaining
Or picking fights.
or picking fights. They don't do it. Like, they read something in the newspaper, next thing you know, they're fighting. I'm like,
Yeah.
but I'm a stranger walking up and I just said, good morning. Then you pulling me over the side to tell me about, how the country's going to hell in a handbasket. Okay. But I thought you said you want to be peaceful,
Yeah.
you know?
I would be peaceful if it wasn't for people like you.
Exactly. Or them and us and all this other stuff, man. But that's the egos need to be right.
Yeah.
It does not care about your happiness, your peacefulness, your joy. It just wants to do right. And just like a virus that will cut down the host that actually gives it life, that's what the ego will do. It will cut you down. And like you said, Rick, you're in your deathbed with 2 minutes of life left in you, and you correcting the doctor and the nurse. Okay. 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 That's been the story. That's been the story of your life. Why stop now? Why stop now? No, man, Rick, I love you, man.
I love you too, Keith. This was a fun one. Yeah.
This is great, man. Thank
I
you.
love being able to tell you all of my faults. Let's do another one right away so we can get some more faults on the table.
You and me both. I love you,
All right,
man.
man. I love you. Adios.
Adios.